All right, so section 3 is all about how we can collect data. And the very first topic in section 3 is just this idea of populations versus samples. Now, this section is one that is almost always on the exam. These 4 definitions: population, sample, parameter, and statistic. And I have a cute little graphic I made here below, sort of breaking down the difference between these 4 different definitions. Hey, Ron. So the population is the group that we want to know about. So you can see lots of people. It's not always feasible to get information from all of these people, so we take a sample. And a sample does require that we have some sort of random selection. So you can see here, smaller group, and we're actually going to get information about them. Now we have our parameter and our statistic. A parameter is our measurement from that population, okay? So we can take a measurement and that's a parameter. And measurement, oh my God, I forgot how to spell measurement in the middle of it. A measurement from a sample is called a statistic. So for stat students, this is at least nice and easy. P goes with P, S goes with S. And as we are in a statistics class, most of the time we're working with sample data and we're gathering statistics. In this case, the parameter is the average age of all students at our college. That is something that I'm guaranteeing that we could actually get through the Office of Institutional Research here because they have everybody's information. And then a statistics would be the average age of a sample. And these 2 numbers we'd hope are pretty similar as long as our sample is good. But there's no guarantee, especially with this. It looks like we only have 21 students. That's a pretty small sample, so not the best possibility here. So one other thing I want to mention about parameter versus statistic and population versus sample is that a lot of the time this population value, our parameter, is unknown. And it's usually something that we can't ever figure out. Like if we're talking about a population instead of MESA students, if we're talking about the whole US population, and we were interested in something like how they felt about a particular ballot measure or what their age is or anything like that, there is no way for us to get all the information from the US population, which is why we need this sample. We want to be able to take some group that is representative of the US population and estimate what's going on. So usually we're doing an estimate with this, and that's what inferential statistics is all about. So I have one example in this section, and I'd like to give you a moment to read through it and make some decisions. See if we know the difference between a population and a sample, and then our critical thinking that I like to see you guys employ. So you should have paused the video and now come back. If you didn't, please try it. I promise you learn a lot more if you make a mistake or if you can figure out what was different in your reasoning than mine as opposed to just watching me do it correctly. The population in this study, you can see in the sentence, she wants to know, and then she wants to know about college students. So that's our population. If this is a question on an exam, I have to be very clear, what are they interested in? Who do they want to know about? And then we can go and we see the sample. That's the people, right? They actually get information from. So she obtains a list, blah, 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 mails a questionnaire, blah, blah, blah. And then she gets 104 questionnaires returned. So we have 104 questionnaires. If you want to be better about this, I'm being kind of lazy. We could actually not say questionnaires, even though I spent a lot of time spelling that correctly. We could say something like undergrads at her college. Because we could look at that previous sentence and realize that there's maybe some issues there. And then this part C, again, if this is a test question, there's going to be a lot of potential issues. I'm going to just ask you to elaborate on 1 or 2. And so hopefully you've thought about this, and there's a whole bunch of issues going on here. 1, it's her college only. She wants to know about all college students. It doesn't say she just wants to know about her college. And if we just look at San Diego by itself, we have 3 colleges that are very, very different. USD, UCSD, SDSU, and that's just the 3 biggest schools here. So the demographics of those 3 schools within one city being so different, we can't say that if I just went to UCSD and asked students what their opinion was on something, that I'm going to get a representative thing for all college students in the entire US. So that's a big, big issue to me. This is probably the biggest. If you want to go a little bit further with that, you may realize that she only talked to undergrads, and that was not specified in her original statement. Maybe college students meant undergrads and grads. We don't know, but without more understanding, that seems like it might be another potential issue. Both of these things are what we would call undercoverage, which we'll get to later. She's leaving out entire groups of people, like students at any other college or graduate students, in her sampling scheme to begin with. And then we have another huge issue. She only has the 104 questionnaires, right? She sent out 250. That means her response rate was less than 50%. So this is what we would call non-response bias. And again, we're going to see all these definitions again later. I'm just giving us a little intro to them. And this is a particularly big issue in this particular case because the people who tend to send these things back are different than the students who don't. And in particular, they may have strong opinions. It's like the rate my professor Yelp effect. Oh, I can't spell. So these are three big issues. I'm sure you can come up with more. My traditional class had a great piece. They actually mentioned this fact that why are we using the mail? Isn't that by itself already sort of making this irrelevant? We're leaving out certain people who might have mailing addresses. We are, like, in this day and age, just mail is not the way to go. So anyways, that is what you need to know. Population, sample, parameter, and statistic. Those four definitions.